ever draw the bow back without an arrow knocked and going through the bow. Never draw back. Because when you let this go, it has to transfer energy to the arrow through the bow. So you can't just pull a bow back, let it go, because it will go boom and go into pieces, probably in your arm. It's no fun.
You're gonna cry.
Yeah.
You spent all that money on this bow you just got.
Oh yeah, and it's done.
Don't do it. If you see your friend doing it, you make them draw back,
and back
right
up.
away. Always need to say, hey y'all.
Hey y'all.
Hey y'all, this is Exodus Outdoors, and we just wanted to make a simple, easy video for everyone today to follow along. This is going to be a beginner's video for bows and archery in general. We're just going to go over the whole bow and everything that's on it. And at the end, Ryan's going to show you things that maybe you need to know, like archery term-wise when purchasing a bow. Okay, let's take a quick look at everything.
All right, so we had this video requested quite a bit, just for people that maybe want to start getting into archery or just want to know what we're doing, what we're talking about. So I'm going to kind of start off by just explaining the bow itself, very basic things about the bow. So right here, coming at the top and bottom of the bow, you have what's called your limbs. These come in different poundages. It varies anywhere from 10 pounds to 80 pounds, 90 pounds, however high you want to go. And that is just how much basically you are pulling back. You can start out lower. Once you start shooting, you'll be able to work it up pretty quickly, but it's weird. The muscles you're using is a little different than just weight room muscles. So even if you're strong in the weight room, doesn't mean that you're gonna be able to pull back 70, 75, 80 pounds. Then you have your string, and I can do this. So then you have your string, which you have a peep and a D-loop. We'll go over that towards the end. And then you have your cables. So and then this is, right here, this is called your riser. So that's the layout of the actual bow. We'll show you towards the end of the video how to adjust your draw length and how to measure that. That's basically just how long it's set. A bow is fit to each and every person. Cora can't just pick up my bow and shoot it. I can't pick up her bow and shoot it.
I don't have orangutan arms, first of all.
Yeah, that's true. I have really long arms. And I'm not strong enough to pull Cora's bow back. So we'll show you what you need to know to get fitted for that. That's basically the bow itself. Riser, limbs, string, cable. All right, starting at the top of the bow, or halfway down, you got your sight. Right here. This is your sight. Basically, just like a scope on a rifle, you just put your pin, that's where your arrow is going to impact. You have two main different types of sights. Let me bend down here. So you have fixed pin sights, which is anywhere from 3 to 7 pins that are set at yardages. And usually you start at 20 yards and go in either 5 or 10 yard increments all the way to your bottom pin. So Cora's is actually set at 20, 30, 40, and 50. That is a fixed pin sight. Then you have a single pin sight. So that, we don't have one over here. That is basically where it's one pin sticking up and you have a dial on the side, like so, right here. And you adjust this dial to the exact yardage that you're wanting for the target or animal, whatever it's at. And that's the only pin you have sticking up. So there's a little bit less clutter in the scope housing, but you only have the exact adjustment before you have to come and adjust again to the next yardage. Those are basically your two main sights. And then you have a hybrid sight, which is actually what me and Cora have switched to. So hers is, like I said, the 5 pin, even though hers is 4 pin. And also has a dial so she can adjust. So this bottom pin right here is just her slider. So she can go from Her bottom pin's 50 all the way to 100. Just right on this dial. So all you do is, you'll usually have a dial, you just loosen that, turn it, and you see how it moves that housing, the whole housing up and down, and her bottom pin will be what's called the slider pin. So that's your 3 basic sights: multi, fixed pin, single pin, and then your hybrid.
So next up on the bow, we have stabilizers. Now you can have front stabilizers coming off the front side of your bow, and we can also have a kicker in your back stabilizers. Now, these help you basically stay steady when you're at full draw coming back. You don't want to be swaying left or right or up and down when you're at full draw. You just want to be able to stay steady. The best way someone's explained it to me is like a tightrope walker. When they're walking on the rope way up there, they have that long, steady, basically stick cable thing, I don't know, whatever, and they hold it, and it just keeps them steady, basically stabilizes them so that they don't fall off the rope and they can stay on course. So Ryan has right here an 11-inch stabilizer. He has 3 ounces of weight on the front, which you can put as many ounces or weights as you want, whatever feels comfortable for you. And then he does have a kicker on the back that is, you said 8 inches?
Yeah, 8.
8 inches with 5 ounces of weight. So I just have a 10-inch stabilizer off the front right here with 2 ounces of weight. It feels comfortable for me. When I'm at full draw, after I release, the bow just comes naturally down forward for me. It feels good, and this is my setup. So whatever setup for you feels comfortable, that's great. And it's also nice to have a little bit of color.
Real quick, just the so kind of the trade-off is the heavier it is, the heavier the steadier, but you don't want it so heavy that you can't hold the bow up. So you want to find that medium range of whatever works for you. Like she said, whatever works best for you. So.
A lot of hunters have a shorter stabilizer that might be a little bit thicker. Those work fine too. They don't get in the way as much when you're hunting, when you're moving throughout the woods and things like that. So there's always benefits and disadvantages to whichever stabilizer that you want to pick. Your choice. And then next up on the bow, we have a rest. So Ryan and I both have drop away rests. Mine is cable driven and his is limb driven. So it comes from his rest up here all the way down to his limb. The rest is what holds the arrow from your D-loop onto your rest when you're drawing your bow back. So I have a QAD rest. I do have to flip it up every time before I shoot. So that might be seen as a disadvantage, but I like it because my rest right here holds my arrow when I'm walking around and hunting. So it's not just wobbling around everywhere. I mean, it barely does a little bit, but it's super helpful when you're trying to do a stock hunt or something like that. So Ryan's over here also has a bigger cage that comes down to hold the arrow that it'll stay in between while we're stalking, but his does not pull up until you draw the bow back. So it'll stay in the cage, but it's a lot bigger. Yeah,
it rattles around a little more.
And then the last type of rest that is very familiar with a lot of people, we have a whisker biscuit. So even though it is a funny name, it is super helpful. People use it for hunting more often. As you can see, the arrow stays in that little hole while you're walking around or hunting. It stays steady. You will see this more with probably newer hunters or a start out bow, but it has its advantages too, so.
Tried and true.
Not gonna hate on it. It's all preference. All right, now Ryan's gonna go over kind of the terms that you need to know when you're purchasing a bow or if you're thinking about getting into it. So we're gonna go over that with you.
Okay, so basically I'm gonna start out with fitting yourself to the bow. Again, you can go to any of your local archery shops and they'll be able to fit you. This is just a reference for if you want to get an idea at home. Basically, your draw length. So when you draw the bow back, you have to know how far your string is gonna come back. There are settings that are usually called mods. I don't know how, there you go. All these holes right here are different lengths in 1/2 inch increments. Most bows will be in 1/2 inch. So you have to set that to the exact length from your grip to where your, this is called your D-loop, by the way. That's where your arrow, oh, I'm a little high. Your arrow fits in right there, and your release, where you pull the bow back, is right here. So basically, when at full draw, from where your arrow is knocked to your grip, that's how far your draw length is. So in order to measure that, you're going to get a tape measure. And actually, I don't want to hear. Here, stand up. Cora's gonna demonstrate for you. So it's easiest if you butt this side up against a corner of a wall. We'll just go ahead and do it right here. So you want your arms even, and you want to go from fingertip to fingertip with the tape. So you butt it up. You can go just above them. You want to hold it right there just for.
I know.
And then go to her fingertip, which is going to be 66 1/2 inches. All right. So 66 1/2 inches. Cora's measurement. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna pull out your little calculator right here. That's the camera. Okay. So you're gonna want to pull out your calculator, and you do 66 divided by 2.5, which comes out to 26.4, which her length is.
Mine is 26.5 inches.
26.5. So, like I said, you're going to take that measurement and divide it by 2.5. That's going to get you a good starting point. I say starting point because there are variations. So Cora is 26.4. So she could go down to 26, up to 26.5. Obviously, she's a lot closer to 26.5. But some people are even an inch off. So you never truly know until you get in. Like I said, it's a good reference point, but get in, draw back some bows, and the bow tech will basically kind of measure you and feel what's comfortable for you, because you know, you could have long fingers or long palms, I don't know, or short palms. So best way is just to get in the bow shop. That's a good starting point. Know that when you go in, you can let them know. Boom. So we have some terms here that you might need to know when purchasing a bow. So the first one is ATA, stands for axle to axle. So this right here at the end of your limb, this is called an axle, kind of like an axle on a truck. I don't know if you can see that. So that is an axle. This is your cam. So this holds your cam on just like an axle holds a wheel on your car. So from this axle to this axle is a measurement. This one is 33 inches axle to axle. That'll come into handy for you is if you're going to use the bow for target shooting or hunting. For hunting, if you're hunting in a ground blind, which is like a little, you know, if you use a ground blind up in a tree, something like that where there's gonna be limbs coming down, you're gonna be in a shorter environment, you're gonna want a shorter bow. You don't want a real long bow that's gonna be bouncing around and keep you from, from making a good shot. So generally hunting bows are shorter bows. They go all the way down to, 28, 27 inches, real short. Mm-hmm. But for target bows, kind of like Cora was talking about earlier, how the, not trapeze guy, what the heck is that called? Tightrope walker dude, he wants a real long pole. So a longer bow is gonna be easier to hold steadier. Just think about if you're holding out a little short stick in front of you, that little stick wiggles a little more than if you had a real long stick. It's a longer sway. The little short one is gonna be shorter sways and more.
So you're gonna have less a chance of error, basically the longer your bow is, because it's not swinging.
So if you're shooting specifically target, you're gonna want a longer bow. They go all the way up to 42 and a compound bow, 42 inches, you know, as long as you want. It's just gonna keep you holding steadier. So that's gonna come into handy, gonna come into play when you're debating on, or when you're deciding on buying a type of bow, what you want it for. There's also ones in the middle. So mine is, some would say, a little long for a hunting bow, 33 inches ATA. I like it because I have really long arms, and so the string angle is just better for me, and I just like having a little bit longer bow. Cora's is 31 inches, I believe. So it's just 2 inches shorter than mine. Real good hunting bow. Last kind of specific thing we're gonna go into is called brace height. So that is gonna be measured from the grip to where the string sits as it is right now, just sitting normal, not drawing back anything. So this measurement comes into play with the speed of your bow. The closer your string sits to the riser or grip of your bow, that's the shorter the brace height, it's gonna make your bow faster because the string is traveling a longer distance. The further your string sits away, it's going to be more forgiving. So your form doesn't have to be as great, or you don't have to hold it for as long because the string is stopping sooner. The further it comes towards the riser, you're going to have to hold that form while you're shooting for longer. And so they're usually more aggressive bows, they're faster. Usually hunting bows, they're going to be closer to the riser. Target bows are going to be, the brace height is going to be longer, further from the riser, because it's just more forgiving overall. Your bow will be slower, but in target, that doesn't really matter. So that's your brace height. So mine is 6 inches, Cora's is 7, so hers is a little more forgiving. Feels a little better shooting. So that's pretty much everything you need to know when you're looking to buy a bow. That's just, you know, the start. It's a rabbit hole. Believe me, I'm still learning all the time, both of us. I mean, there is a ton that goes into this. It's all harmonics that works together. It is a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun if y'all are looking into getting into it, or looking into buying a bow for this fall coming up for archery season. We're super excited for you. We're trying to get more people involved in this kind of activity that we do. It's a lot of fun, teaches you a lot of good ethics, but like we said, to each their own. Everyone has their own thing, how they like their bows, and we would love to see your bow and kind of what your setup is like. Share it with us.
This is part 1 of the kind of Archery for Beginners series that we're doing. The second part is we're gonna kind of get out in the yard and show y'all form, how to shoot properly, go over all different sorts of points that you need to know there. And then we'll also probably have a release video, probably a couple more videos just going into depth on it. This is just the bare minimum, what you need to know for the bow.
Be looking out for our next video coming up. This is just part 1 in our series that we have of going over the bow, form, bow stuff. Be ready for it. Thank y'all so much for joining us today. Y'all be safe out there. Have a blessed day, and
we'll catch y'all later.